What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Luminary Grand, and today we're going to be going over My Hero Academia chapter 368. In the last chapter, we left off with Deku finally making his appearance and going on a bit of a rage against All For One Shigaraki, and showing us that he has control over the majority of his quirks. We're going to get into this chapter. I've already looked through a little bit, and this chapter is fire, so I'm ready to go through it and talk about it with you guys. We start the chapter off with Deku asking the same question he asked last time. Is Shigaraki still there? All For One says, really, that's your question? Tomoe Shigaraki, you mean? No one with that name exists anymore. The two have achieved perfect melding. Perhaps All For One, since he's been around longer, he's the one in charge. All For One then responds, I don't know what you're scheming, but I won't let you have your ideal pie in the sky ending here. Then Muriel interrupts. He says, hang on, I'm not sure about all that. He speaks about it early in previous chapters when he had his back and forth with Shigaraki and he claimed that Shigaraki didn't have any friends. Shigaraki then had an outburst that he was possessed by a child. None of that suggests that they've achieved perfect melding. It's as if the harder we fight, the more unstable they become. Then we get to see Nana Shimura's vestige appear as one of the fingers on Shigaraki's hands looked up at her. I'm assuming that this is supposed to be her son, who is Shigaraki's father. She then says to Deku, he's still there. Then All For One immediately jumps to the air and prepares to fight. He says, enough idle chit chat. I'll be taking One For All back as he tries to attack Deku. He smashes into UA Fortress, causing an immense amount of damage, making multiple panels of metal fly up in the air. Deku responds as he dodges, saying, know this, All For One, I won't let you have your ideal ending either. As he wraps Black Whip around All For One's arm, explaining, I stored up a third's energy of Fajin within Black Whip, creating a boosted binding combo called Black Chain. Deku then throws Shigaraki into the air. So this is interesting because this is the first we've seen of, well, not the first, but this is the first example within a battle we've seen of Deku combining the power of his two quirks. I'm curious if he'll continue to do this and chain multiples of his quirk together so that way he can gain new abilities. All For One responds, enhanced or not, the same trick won't work on me twice. As the second user of One For All appears in a vestige form, he tells Deku, you're done once you use this. Take him down in 5 minutes or if the world loses this war. Deku then responds, I'm ready to settle this. As he touches his hand and says the second's transmission. We then go to a panel of All For One on one of the platforms as it seems he's knocked into the air. Okay, so in one panel we see it looks like he jumps, but on the next panel we see that Deku is actually connecting with All For One, saying second gear, third gear, top gear, as he punches All For One into the air. The stance Deku has here is brilliant. I love this stance because this is similar to the stance that All Might had when he punched the first Nomu we came in contact with in the USJ arc. All For One then flies up in the air and Muriel responds, the sounds are delayed? All For One's confused. He says, where did he go? What did he just do to me? This is not like the energy he had before. He's far too fast. Then the second chimes in and says, no, it's a whole different beast than back in my day, All For One. The meta ability that changes the target speed when touched, Gear Shift Overdrive. Okay, this is interesting. So apparently the second user's ability isn't anything like what we initially thought. Apparently his ability changes the speed of any object that he touches. So I guess this makes sense because in previous chapters when we saw the second user for the first time, he had some kind of gauntlet on his arm that looked to be some type of gun type weapon, but apparently has nothing to do with that. It's not about the weapon itself, but more about what's inside the weapon. So basically if the second user touches the projectiles within the weapon, I guess he can change the speed of them. Interesting. As we continue the chapter, we see Deku jumping up into the air saying, Gear Shift, Overdrive. Then we see the vested version of the first user of One For All as he speaks to his brother, All For One, saying, as Izuku Midori would put it, this is 120% out of 100% of One For All. So okay, so basically with the combination of Deku's quirks, be it Fajin and Overdrive, Deku can put out 20% extra of One For All's power. Okay, this is pretty cool. So then the vested version of the first user of One For All says, brother, let today be the day that we end this, as Deku comes crashing down on All For One with a Detroit smash. And also it's a Detroit smash. Wait, no. I thought it was shoot style, but I think this is a punch. Interesting. Deku looks insane. He has the energy from One For All coming out of his eyes, and all the energy from the impact and the quirks he used previously coming off of him. These panels look amazing. I really do enjoy the way that Horikoshi illustrated these panels, because it shows exactly how much Deku has matured and mastered his abilities. He's handling speeds that he's never even experienced from what we've seen, like a champ. It's like nothing's affecting him. Apparently Deku is moving so quickly that he can't be seen, and the impact of his punches are delayed. Like he's punching All For One so hard that the sound from his blows are being delayed, and it's like an after effect. That's crazy. That's such an interesting way to just envision Deku's fighting capabilities. So basically Deku is on a completely different level now than he was in the first war arc when he fought All For One and went berserk. Also, I'm very curious about how Tanko Shimura is going to come into contact in this, because when we do see him in the chapter, it looks like Tanko Shimura and All For One are fused together, and All For One's trying to keep control of Tanko Shimura, trying to hide him, but he keeps peeking out. This is something that they keep showing throughout these manga chapters. Tanko Shimura is gaining more and more, not even gaining, Tanko Shimura is becoming more and more loose within All For One Shigaraki. So his personality and his consciousness is starting to become more awake. Apparently they've been trying to hide this consciousness or gain control of it, but he seems to be defying them around every turn. So I predict at some point, whether it be through Talk no Jutsu or whether it be through Tanko Shimura just gaining control, I do think that he will eventually have control over his body. I don't know if that will erase everything that he did, because Shigaraki or All For One will be no more. But it does look like Horikoshi is foreshadowing that eventually Deku and Tanko Shimura will come face to face. I really enjoy the intense expression on Deku's face, because it shows that he's really ready to end this fight, and he's ready to take on anything that Shigaraki All For One can throw at him. Very interesting, because even how menacing Shigaraki All For One has been in the previous chapters, Deku really does seem to be knocking him around, which shows that Deku's power level has increased exponentially, even past what Shigaraki All For One may be capable of, or even what he expected. That's very interesting. I like the new look that Deku has in this chapter as well, because it does look like he's sticking with the scarf form of Black Whip wrapping around him. I'm curious if it's just for accessibility, maybe. I'm not sure, but it is a very interesting look. Deku really is trying to look like the #1 hero, and the power of One For All is flowing out of him rapidly. But the second user did say that after he uses this quirk that he's done. So apparently the transmission quirk is going to take a lot out of Deku. I'm curious if that's because it's a movement-based quirk, and since Deku is reaching such high speeds, maybe his body can't fully handle what's going on, even though he's using 120%. I'm curious to see what that means. We have seen in previous chapters, once Deku reaches the heights of his powers, his body doesn't last long afterwards. I hope that only means that maybe Deku will pass out or be out of commission, because I don't think we can handle Deku actually sustaining a major injury right now. And actually, a detail that I looked over a little bit, now that I'm taking a second look, it looks like Deku is wrapping his arm with Black Whip, so that way he can withstand the impact of the force that transmission is dealing. That's really cool, and that's a nice little detail to have in, because in previous chapters, Deku has also reinforced his arm using Black Whip. So it seems like this is the strategy that he has put into his arsenal, and that he will be using from this point on. I love the way Deku looks when he's flying over All For One, because after he hit him with transmission, he knocked All For One way in the air rapidly. Deku was there in an instant to hit him with the Detroit Smash and knock him back down to the ground. I think this is really cool. I'm curious if this Detroit Smash is a punch or a kick. I would really want it to be a kick, so that way Deku can separate himself from All Might, but also so it'll show that he didn't just throw shoot style out the window. I think the difference between him and All Might in this case isn't just the fact that he uses shoot style, but it's the fact that he uses kicks and punches simultaneously. He's more of a full-fledged combatant now, and he's not just on one side of the fence. He's not limited to just his arms. So I think this is really cool. I'm really interested to see what will happen in the next chapter, especially the fact of the original user of One For All speaking to his brother. I wonder if he can see him, because it does show him looking up. I'm curious about this, because it shows the original face of All For One looking up at his brother. So I'm curious, is that his consciousness looking at his brother? I'm not sure. They did show that in the Vestige world that All For One had a Vestige world of his own, and it seemed like maybe in that Vestige world that All For One was able to see them. I'm not 100% sure. But overall, this chapter is a beautiful chapter. I love the art. This is the most intense art we've gotten in My Hero Academia thus far, and I really like what's going on. It's showing that this really is going to end up to be the final battle of My Hero Academia, and maybe within 5 minutes Deku will win. If I had to guess, I would say that no, Deku won't win right off the bat. I think it's important that they said within 5 minutes he has to get it done, because basically with this quirk using a large amount of energy on Deku's body, it basically gives him a time limit to where he has to finish the job before All For One has a chance to regain any of his quirks or gain the upper hand. But it looks like Deku really is coming at this with everything he has, so I'm very curious to see what goes on. I don't think Deku is gonna finish it in one go, because that'll be too easy. They have to make some more controversy for him, and All For One still hasn't used any of his quirks. That's the biggest thing about it. All For One still hasn't used any of his quirks. His body has adapted to gain now that I think about it, his body adapted to gain the proper form to fight the heroes, but not to fight Deku. So I'm curious if he'll go through another transformation. Maybe that will be the ideal form, or maybe something will happen to where Eraserhead and Monoma end up closing their eyes, and All For One will get his quirks. If that does happen, hopefully it happens within the 5 minutes, so that way Deku still has a fighting chance. Because even if he has all these quirks, I still think Deku, with how his quirks work together and stack on top of each other, he should still be faster and stronger than All For One, period. I'm very excited for the next chapter, just because at this point it's a brawl. So I'm curious to see what's going to go down, and if any of the other heroes are going to get involved. Bakugo is going to get involved at some point. I don't think he's just going to not be there. So I'm really excited to see what happens in the next chapter. You guys down in the comments, let me know how you feel about this chapter, and let me know what do you think about the second user of One For All's quirk, transmission. I really like that. Well, it said transmission, and it also said gear shift, so I'm curious of the actual name. I'm gonna say that gear shift should be the proper name, because as Deku is hitting him, he's switching gears. So I'm assuming that gear shift would be the proper name. I'm not completely sure. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think about the quirk. Let me know what you think about Deku's power up as he's fighting Shigaraki, All For One. And let me know what you think is going to happen in the next chapter. Will Deku get the job done in 5 minutes? I'm on the side of no, but who knows? It could be possible. If Horikoshi just went out on a limb and had Deku in the fight in 2 chapters, that would be wild. The war wouldn't be over, because the original All For One is still out there. But if Deku just demolished Shigaraki in 2 chapters, that would be insane, and that would put credence to how Deku became the greatest hero. So yeah, you guys leave down in the comments your thoughts about this chapter. Also, let me know what you thought about the video. I'm interested to hear you guys' opinion and on ways I can actually make my videos better and ways I can bring you better content. So yeah, I'll catch you guys next time. It's Luminary Grand signing off. Peace.